Hello, this is Jake Brown, chiropractor at Active Chiropractic of Cadillac, and I'm talking with a friend of mine, Anthony Close. He's the founder of a company called LabMe. And Anthony, why don't you tell us a little bit about what LabMe does?
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for having me for an interview, Jake. Hope you're doing good there in Michigan, locked up in your house. So LabMe is, what we've done is we've just created a direct-to-consumer blood testing system. Essentially what it allows our customers to do is they can do blood testing from their house, then it allows them to monitor their health a little bit more effectively, gives them the control to decide when and how they want to do their blood tests. So we do a range of around 26 different biomarkers. We use an FDA certified CLIA and CAP accredited lab. And the system that we use is a patented blood collection system that separates the plasma from the blood. So the results that our users get are the same as if they had gone into a lab and had blood drawn out of the vein. So.
Okay, so that's quick and dirty on what you guys do and why you started, and you've got a broad range of products that you offer. But to get right to what's going on right now, once this coronavirus, this COVID-19 came about, you were able to quickly adapt and create a test for that. And so you have a rapid test, and it's a self-administered test. There's a little finger prick. You have a little device for that. You put a drop of blood onto a device, and then you have a reagent that you apply to that. And it gives you, within 5 minutes, a positive or a negative. And from what I understand, it works best if the person has been infected for at least 11 days. And at that point, it's accurate to 98, 99%. You have that available. You've sold a bunch of those in East Asia, and you're looking to get these over to the United States, but you're kind of being blocked right now. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we developed these in conjunction with a laboratory, a rapid one-step test laboratory in Asia. We sourced a lot of the important parts, I guess, without getting too geeky or nerdy about the colloidal stuff. But we sourced a lot of it from Europe, and we got some of the parts from South Korea, and then we assembled them here in Asia. And I think, in a lot of ways, I'd say at first we got pretty lucky. So we were selling them online, and then we started getting censored. But we got them online on e-commerce here in Southeast Asia pretty quick before the censorship started. So I think the first day we had them on, we probably sold about 50 of them. I went to bed that night and I woke up the next day and they were all sold. And through that led other people to us that had larger contracts. And I think today, probably 2-3 weeks after we started this, today we've sold over 11,000 of them in Southeast Asia. We're looking right now with a couple of deals in the Dominican Republic and also the Cook Islands that would put sales up over 100,000. So what we did was we then started in the US, kind of shoot first, ask questions later, which was a bit of a mistake. We sold about 100 tests in the US over the course of 2-3 days. And then we've got a couple other senior leaders on the team, and we started just, bouncing the idea of, should we actually fulfill these orders? We need to check into it because the FDA started releasing a lot of warnings around the tests. So we hired a law firm in Chicago to start to help us with that. And they advised us to just give the money back, basically. So I refunded all the money. And it's funny because shortly after I refunded the money, I think a day, maybe 2 days later, for the COVID-19 tests in the States, we were hosted on Shopify. Then Google Chrome labeled us as a phishing site, and then Shopify completely closed us down with no access to the customers, even the ability to refund the customers. But luckily, I'd already done that.
And the crazy thing is if I didn't know you, if I didn't have a history with you, if I, you and I went to chiropractic school, we were really close friends, and you're probably the closest person that I know to anyone who would be like a mad scientist type character. You studied molecular genetics at Purdue University before going on to chiropractic school, and you decided through that journey to stop practicing chiropractic, and then you went into the lab arena. And I know that your company started doing one thing, you kind of pivoted, and you went towards where you're at now, and it's such a perfect fit for you. I mean, it's just who you are. It makes a lot more sense. The thing is, if I'm looking at your tests online and I don't know you, and Google labels you as a phishing site, I would immediately think like, oh, well, this must be a scam, without even giving it any thought. But you put the work in. I mean, you've got a range of tests, you've got great efficacy, you've got all the research, and you've got these other labs that can put these materials together for you. So I mean, talk a little bit about that. Like, talk a little bit about like the legitimacy of your company and the products that you have. Like, why would anyone, why should we trust your test as opposed to any other test, or that nasal test that they have to stick up your nose, and that even has upwards of a 20% false negative. So I mean, why yours?
Well, I think probably the first part of it is, it's not a perfect test by any means. I think I should probably clear that up. It's not a PCR test where it's testing the genomics, and it can't detect early onset COVID either. It's definitely not a miracle test by any means. But I think one of the things that might make it better than the nasal swabs are easy to perform, and you can perform them pretty rapidly without people complaining too much. But ours uses whole blood sample, which I believe you're getting a much better quality sample with whole blood. With the nasal swabs, you have to have it back far enough. You have to collect enough, snot, whatever. So there's a lot more there. But with whole blood, it's just more accurate in my opinion for any of those tests. The other thing is one of the reasons I think it probably comes, I guess, a little higher rated is, we have European annexes on a lot of the components. So we have CE certification. We've got research behind it that we've done. We've seen multiple positive results in Southeast Asia, especially in the aging population, which has been very encouraging because it's been able to get them treatment faster. And now with the large orders that are going out, these are going to more B2B areas that are more remote. And I think that's what's really cool. So we're looking at the Cook Islands as well. And that would be 100,000 tests going out to the Cook Islands and just going to really remote parts. And so that's kind of what excites me more about the test than anything else, is being able to reach remote areas. But the trustworthiness, I guess, would come from the research rather than a government license. It's the actual what's happening with the test. How is it working? Has it been accurate? Has it been selective? Has it been sensitive? And all those things.
So your company right now, anyone can go on LabMe and they can order, they can order a HIV test. They can order, you said, pregnancy test. They can order influenza testing, you know, A and B, you've got all that stuff. And that's a direct to consumer. There's no FDA involvement in that. Shows up at their house, you know, they can go through the instructions and perform that test. And the COVID test is really no different than those as far as how they're administered. But now all of a sudden, FDA is like, nope, you can't do that. You know, how much politics is involved in all of that, especially at a time when this is like, you would think something like this that you have would be fast tracked to get in people's hands as fast as possible. And that's great that you can get to remote areas, you know, but is a dude from, you know,
Yeah,
you
I
know, this,
know it's frustrating. Yeah, I guess look, like I read this quote by Richard Branson. He said basically like if you're if you're offered an amazing opportunity, say yes and then figure it out later, or do it first and then apologize later. And I'll just say like there's enough bureaucracy in the States that it's just made me say, nah, I'm just not going to do it at all. So I don't want federal agents showing up at the door. I don't want it's I take risks. I definitely take risks, but that's how much bureaucracy there is. It's enough to scare me into just saying no. I'd just rather not sell in the States. So we've got a legal team in Chicago right now, and we have filed with the FDA. We're in the process of filing with the FDA. But I think what will happen probably before that is rather than have our own tests go through that process, which it will, is our partner laboratory is also working on it. And to give you an idea, this is a laboratory that's been around since 2005. They're CAP accredited, CLIA certified. Everything they've got is FDA approved. They were supposed to release their test 3 weeks ago, and they still can't.
that's crazy.
So
Yeah, no, it's sad whenever, you know, I mean, all the communities everywhere are low, and they need supplies, they need tests, and the fact that there's things out there, you know, there's accurate testing from companies like yours that are available, and yet they can't get through, you know. That's frustrating. And I want to commend you. I'm proud of you for talking about this and not swearing one time yet. I know you pretty well, and that's a feat.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I think it's okay though. I mean, rapid. We're in 3 different countries. LabMe's in the U.S., Singapore, and Indonesia. And really, the rapid tests were something that we launched in Indonesia as a way to kind of get around stigma, especially with STDs. So people with STDs in Indonesia, due to religious reasons or whatever, the way they're brought up, really get stigmatized. So there's a lot of people that don't get tested because of that. And so we started the rapid test for that here around some of the infectious diseases and STDs. And it wasn't really something I thought a whole lot of, because our primary market has been the US. And the US is, we don't necessarily really do a lot of rapid tests in the US, but maybe that will change, coming into the next half of the year. But the main thing in the US is where we're testing blood for lifestyle diseases. Our users can even do CBCs from home. And in the next quarter, we're going to be releasing entire genomic sequencing for gut microbiome, pharmacogenomics, nutrition, and genomics. So a lot of things like that. And
didn't you say you just had the first complete blood count test administered in the US and sent back? And
yeah, and I'm really excited about that. I don't think a lot of people share that excitement. But I think it's pretty pioneering. But we had the first at-home self-administered CBC performed in the U.S. I think that's a big step forward towards direct-to-consumer healthcare.
Because a lot of your tests, you've got the quick tests, right? The rapid that somebody can order, they get a result right there at home. But the
So
the
much
the
to
more
use, so.
the more detailed testing you have a kit, you supply the small sample, you send that back, and then your company, your website, it creates a dashboard for you, and so you can see a number of different levels. Like I used the what do you call it, the complete test, where it looks at all the lipids and HDL and
The
liver
baseline,
enzymes, and
the
yeah, the
one you,
baseline test.
the one you were doing really bad on, all your cardiac and lipid markers were really bad, and you told me to cancel it. Like,
Yeah. No.
stop me on that.
The cool thing about that is that the dashboard, you get like, not only can you take your time and look at the levels, but you really dumb it down. So you get like color codings, right? So I could see like, hey, great, I'm green, 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 green. So like your anxiety, you know what I mean? Like you're good right away, you know, and then you can go back through and you can look at the details, and then you give detailed descriptions on like what this one means and why this is important. Um, and one of the things you were talking about is the benefit of those tests come from over time, right? Creating like a profile for yourself where you can track it over a period of time, not just a quick snapshot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm trying to open up the dashboard because I'll show you a screenshot. But yeah, it comes down to blood work shouldn't just be one snapshot. That could be a good day or a bad day. Who knows? Your risk factors are constantly changing. Everything you do every single day, the way you eat, the way you exercise, train, or maybe don't, all affects every step of the journey. And the normal ranges on blood work were pretty much done decades ago with mass statistics on predominantly white people. So the normal ranges aren't individual at all. And when you look at just a snapshot, I guess that's kind of like you getting the Dow Jones Industrial Average number for the day, and that's it. And then you have to decide whether or not you're going to invest into that. You have no historical trend of it at all. It's just you get that on one day, and then maybe 2 years later you get another number, and you don't remember the one from 2 years ago because you don't remember where you put it. So there's no way to really track or gauge are you coming or going. So is it okay if I share the screen real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So this would be an example of somebody that's got all the tests. So you can see a lot of the tests that we do here, total cholesterol, ferritin. And the tests that we don't use dry blood spot cards either. And I think that's important. We do use a patented FDA system that separates the plasma from the blood and gives you the exact same results if you went into the lab. And we take a lot of pride in that accuracy. Whereas all of our competitors use dry blood spot cards, and they're wildly variable and inaccurate. But what you'll see is, let's say, and this isn't my blood work, by the way. This is your dashboard, actually.
Yeah, right.
So here we can see what you see right away is this is the current test, and this is your last test. And we can see that it's gone down and with the ranges here, but where it gets cool is over time. So, and this is a demo dash, and we're making some changes. So the date there is a little bit off, but what happens is this gives you a good idea on why this is really important to track. If you would have gone in and just had your blood work done on this day, everything looks pretty good. But there's a totally different picture that's happening the rest of the year. And this happens. This is just because it's a demo dash doesn't mean that this kind of stuff doesn't happen. We see this all the time. One of the things we see really commonly is we see people that are actually in pretty good shape, pretty healthy, and then they'll have incredibly high, LDL. Their HSCRP will be incredibly elevated. So, and these things on their own may not mean a lot, but if you have a trend of that and you see that happening or increasing over the year, then yeah, there's something in play. There's something that needs to be looked at. And I think what's really cool about this is it's the first time that that you've been able to do that. We automate the MD prescription. So in the past, you've had to get up, you had to fast, you had to drive. Well, first you had to go to the MD and get the prescription, which that's a lot of time on its own. Then after you get the prescription for the lab, then you have to fast, you have to wake up, you got to drive, you got to sit in the waiting room with the crying kid, you know, and it's just, it could be a whole month of driving around, waiting, appointments, all this stuff. So now you get to order the test, you click, it comes to your house, you wake up in the morning, do the test right next to your coffee pot, you're done in 3 minutes, you have your coffee, mail it back for free, give you results.
Well, then the other thing too is typically, you know, when you get like, you know, routine physical and you get blood work, you know, like yearly blood work, they give you a printout of those tests, and you've got to have a medical degree to understand those tests. You know, we could look through them and, you know, we remember from microbiology or hematology, you know, just how to look through and try to remember what markers should be where. But typical person that's not very user friendly, it's Chinese. And the great thing about your dashboard is you've got everything listed individually, and you've got that color coded scale, and then you've got a detailed explanation behind it, so they know what's what, or if a number's low and what that could mean, and then with the motivation to follow up with it and create a more detailed profile over time.
Yeah, you know, you have the ability now to get blood work and then do something about it, change your lifestyle habit, maybe 1 or 2 different things, start walking 10,000 steps and test it again in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Easy now. Before that would be a real headache. And, you know, I think people track a lot of different metrics. They track their steps, they track their calories, they track their weight, their sleep, all these different health tracking apps, but they're all external metrics in some ways. They're kind of teddy bear metrics, because how are those steps affecting your biochemistry? Your inside metrics are probably the most important. I don't think anybody, I'd say they are the most important. If your inside metrics are going south, then that's a pretty good predictor that your health is deteriorating. You know, and the only other good predictor of death would probably be age.
Yeah. So I want you to keep in touch with me as far as, you know, with these coronavirus test kits that you have do finally get approved and you can start sending these over. Let me know. You know, I'd like to start collecting as many as possible, just so I can have them available as well for people around me. And then I'd like to pass that information on to other people in the community, because we don't have enough testing right now, and it's frustrating. This thing came on fast and hard, and everyone's freaked out. And so the more resources that we have, I think the better.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I appreciate you having me for the call.
Yeah. And so if someone is curious about, you know, any of the products that you offer, they just go to your website, right? www.labme.ai.
That's it.
Cool. Well, maybe we'll put some links once I post this, and you can have some other descriptions, and you can jump on there and potentially even answer questions and things like that as well. Because
yeah, no problem. And I really welcome that. You know, anyone that's got questions, you know, feel free. I
cool.
enjoy answering those. So no problem.
Well, it's good to see you, man. It's good to see your face. Good to talk to you. You look a little different than the last time I saw you.
Yeah, you know, I'm locked up at home too.
Yeah.
No barber.
Yeah.
I had to take matters into my own hands.
Nice. Well, stay safe, man, and I'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you.
See ya.
See you.